Well, today we're going to finish up, hopefully, Excel Project 1 and review Excel because I'm not expecting Excel to be, you have a lot of experience with Excel, but I guarantee you this is something that if you have good skills in Excel, even just basic skills in Excel, you will set yourself as a valuable employee. Even if your main job isn't to do the accounting, if you just know how Excel works and can even just understand someone working on a spreadsheet, you'll be in your boss's office and they'll say, hey, I'm having trouble with this in Excel. And you can say, hey, I've done some of that, and you likely could help somebody. So knowing spreadsheets, even your own home budget, that marriage saving formula we're going to be introducing as part of this. Okay, so let's see what we got to do with this first project. Let's open up our Excel. I have it pinned to my taskbar, so I'm going to start it from there. And I'm going to remember my recent Excel Project 1. Keep track of where it is. Always keep track of where your files are. That's a very basic part of computing. It's easy for things to get lost, especially if you're not organizing them clearly. I'm going to close my recovery. Apparently, I had it open and this PC got reset. So I'm going to say, no, I don't. I think I have everything I need. I'm going to close that. I don't need to save anything. Here is what we have left from before. We entered our monthly estimates, putting in our headings across the top for the months. Entered commissions, interest the same all the way across, projected interest, totaled. Remember in that total, I'll zoom in on this, that first column here. On that total, remember what we did. First I did just add them up, simple math with the equal in front of it. I'm hitting escape to stop the edit, double click on that one. There I did another, just add them up. Here I did the sum, just to show you sum will also work, adding up multiple numbers in a range. And we let Excel do the work in the total column. I double click on that. I see that we're doing the sum of the range B4 out to M4. Remember that colon between the two cell addresses means add up everything from the start to the end in that range. Hitting escape, we see that adds up that range. Escape. And that is the sum of the two totals. Similar thing down here, we projected expenses, giving them row headings. Entered projected expenses. Mostly were the same for January, so basically we did it for January, copied it across, and then just updated a few things that were different for a few of them, like the supplies and the website. Looks like otherwise the projections were the same for every month. Now at the bottom, we want to add an additional calculation, but remember what this net was. This is related to the marriage saving formula, where we are finding the net profit from the month is our total income minus total expenses. So I'm hoping that you're understanding why this is the net. Our total income minus total expenses, that's why that's that formula. So just memorizing the formula is good, knowing how you can do formulas, but we'd like to do a little bit more or have a good understanding of why those numbers are there. Now we're going to do a couple more things here at the bottom. We'd like not only to see the net, we want to do some other statistical numbers using our auto sum capabilities. We have net calculated, and I thought we were going to add max and min. Maybe that's for another project. Looks like that's all we need, but we're going to want to make it look a little prettier now. So we don't need to do any more calculations, but we'd like it to look something like this. Isn't that beautiful? We'd like to do alternating colors, some underlined rows, bolding of our headings and bolding of some row columns, and a special coloring of that net row. So basically we're going to be applying styles to different rows and columns. So let's walk through that. First out, well, we'll start at the top, and we're going to make that title look beautiful. So in the title row, or A1, we're going to give that a particular style. So I select that cell, and now I can apply a style to it. Now I could do this manually by increasing the font, changing it to bold, changing the font color, putting an outline around it. I could do all of this on my own, or I could come over here and choose a built-in cell style, very much like the text styles in Word. I can choose a cell style and look at all the styles available to me. As I hover over each style available, I see the effect in my spreadsheet. So it gives me a preview right there in my spreadsheet. We would like to apply the title style to that cell. And now it's made it large, and if I click on it, it shows me that it made it Calibri Light, 18 point. I can still change things here, but that is a built-in style. So we applied cell style of title to A1. Now, the monthly estimates, we would also like to change that style from Calibri to Arial Narrow. Let's find Arial Narrow and change that cell style. Using manual, we're going to manually change our font. So change it to Arial Narrow. Find Arial Narrow down here. There it is. So we changed monthly estimates to Arial Narrow, and I think we want to change our font size there as well. No, they didn't change it. Okay, we'll leave it there. We'd like to go back to cell A1 and make that bold. So we're adding bold to the title style. So making it a title, but then we change it to bold. Not a huge difference there. And let's see, we're going to make the subtitle bold as well. Let's see here. Now they're coming back to the subtitle. They should have done this before. Now we're coming back to the subtitle. Let's change that to font size of 16. I notice the Control Shift greater than doesn't work in Excel. Oops. So we change that the font size to 16. And remember, anytime I click on another cell, the cell format goes back to something else. Every cell remembers its format. Each cell can have a completely separate format. It's all individual to each cell. Let's come back to the title here, and let's change the color of that font to be a theme color. Let's choose a color of that by selecting the cell, then coming up here to the theme color, and let's choose a theme color of the green accent E. Since it's a theme color, think of it as the rightmost theme color. If I ever change my theme color, whatever the rightmost color would be that color. And we want to apply that same color to the monthly estimates. Green is a good color for accounting. Accountants just love the color green, and they hate the color red. Now if I zoom out here, I'll see that my title would look nicer if it were centered above my table. Here's what is very common to do in Excel spreadsheets. We would like to treat this as one entire cell and have everything centered, have this text centered in one cell. So here's something we can do in Excel. I can click and drag to select multiple cells. Not copy, but select. And do that again. Click on it once, and then just drag while you have the wide plus. And now we're going to merge and center. Because this is such a common thing to do, we have a merge and center button right there. And I can click merge and center and watch what it does. It merges that into one cell above everything else. Let's do the same thing to the main title. Select all the way through, merge and center. If you ever have something in multiple cells and you try to do a merge and center, it'll warn you, wait a minute, you're going to lose some data if you merge and center across multiple texts. So it'll give you a warning if you accidentally try to merge and center something, you're going to lose everything except the leftmost cell. So I'm going to cancel that merge and center. But see how that made that to be treated as though it were one cell. So I merged multiple cells into one. And I can unmerge them if I ever decide I didn't like to have them merged in centers. But a quick way to center something, and we do it mostly for titles. Now here's something else I like to do. If I want a little space between my title and my table, I can come over here and grab this row height. Remember, I can hover over the border between the two rows, and I can click and drag that, give me a little bit of space between my table and my title. I think that looks a little better. So we merged and centered both the title and the subtitle. And now let's apply a style to this. Again, I could manually apply a style to all of these cells by coming here and choosing all sorts of characteristics. Or I could come to Cell Styles and let's choose Heading 1 as a style for that. Heading 1. Rather than me having to figure out what's a good look, put an underline, a blue underline, let's choose a style that has that built in. Now we see when I do that, my months are crunched together and it's not looking so good. September's being cut off, October. I'll show you a quick way later to automatically fit these columns. I'll just give you a clue that if I just double click on the border of a particular column, it auto fits everything in that column nicely. I could, of course, adjust it manually, but double clicking on the border lets it auto fit it just right. So I've applied the cell style of Heading 1 to that entire row, and we're going to do a few more rows like that. We're going to apply that same Heading 1 to these cells. Click, drag through all the way out to column N, and cell style of Heading 1. Now just to show you a different way I could have done that, I could have selected one cell that was in Heading 1 style, and I could have used my Format Painter to do that same thing. It would apply that same style. So if you don't remember what style that was, you can just say, hey, I want that same format that I just did. The Format Painter comes in handy there. But if I knew it was Heading 1, I could do cell style, yeah, Heading 1 like that too. So that gets the Heading 1. Okay, it's starting to look a little nicer. And let's go down then to the, we want on alternating colors now. Now in the book they do it a little different. Let's see, we're also going to apply, they would like to do this. We would like to select this row here, the total row, and let's choose a cell style. They have one built in called total. Might as well use total style on the row that has totals in it. Let's apply the same total style to this row. I could have used my Format Painter again. And in this row, they're going to make this row special. We're going to apply a special cell style of accent 6 with white font. Lower right, green accent 6. Make that last row kind of a special row. It's not that easy to read on the screen. So we've got basic cell styles, but we would like, just to make it a little prettier, let's have alternating a light green, dark green color on our rows here. So I'm going to select those rows. See how I can select multiple rows at the start? Wide plus, drag just to that cell. And I want to apply alternating color. Well, let's see here. I can apply a fill color here of a light green, and then choose one row and apply a dark green fill. Light green, dark green. And you can choose how dark to get. I have one light green and one slightly darker green. I don't see the actual effect until I click off of it. Let's do that same thing here. Select through all of those cells and then apply a light green to them. Now comes the little trickier part. I have applied a light green to all of those. Now I want to apply an alternating color to these rows. I could do one at a time, select through and apply a dark green, slightly darker green. And then I could select another row and apply the slightly darker green. Or I could do Control, select, and drag through. And that allows me to select rows that are not connected. Control, select. And now if I apply a darker green to all of those, I have my alternating colors. If I click off of that, I'll see the effect of my alternating colors. Starting to look a little more professional. I'll zoom out here. See, I have a decent looking spreadsheet. Now just to be able to view it a little more and get this ribbon out of the way, if I ever double click on any tab, remember I can hide my ribbon, and that lets me see a little bit more without my ribbon getting in my way. So here's what you should have so far. Alternating colors. So it's looking pretty color-wise, but our accountants are still not happy because our numbers are not showing decimal points and they're not lined up very nicely, although they're decently lined up. We like to see the pennies, the 2 decimal points. So we're going to be applying a numbering format that the accountants will like. I'm going to do a save before I forget. Since I've done a lot of work so far, I'm going to do a Control S. You can do a Control S at any time just to make sure what you have done so far gets saved to that file where you know it is. It is saving it in a recoverable place, but some place where it's going to be hard for you to ever find it. But in case you forget to save it, next time you open it, you may see something recoverable. Not guaranteed, though. All right, now it's time to format our numbers. See if everybody's got that in there. Let's see, looks good. Looking good, okay. Now, let's apply a number format. So I just select my numbers, the cells with numbers in them, only that row, because we're going to have this row look a little different than the other rows. We're going to put the first row of each section in accounting format. I'll bring my ribbon back up, and I want to put that in accounting format just because I like to see that I am dealing with US dollars. Accounting format lets you choose what currency is being shown in your spreadsheet. By default, it's US, but if you're ever working for some other country, you may want to show that these numbers are in a different currency. We're going to do the same thing to the top row of... Oh no, we're not going to do the same thing. We'll find out what other rows are going to apply that accounting number to. Now, let's see, we're applying it to that. Now let's apply to this row. Oh, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see all of them. I'm going to apply to this row comma style. Comma style gives it decimal points but without the dollar sign in front of it. Now don't panic if you see this. If you see all the pound signs, don't panic. All that means is my row or my column is too narrow to show the number. I can manually adjust the column width or double click on the border of that column to have it auto fit. So if I ever make the column too narrow, you'll see pound signs. Don't panic. That just means, oh, I need to widen my column. Double click, and now I can see my numbers. So we've applied now comma format to the second row, and I think the total row, I think they want us to apply accounting format to the total row. Now let me show you a little trick here. Even though there's not a number here, I can click on the number 6 row here and apply accounting format, and let's see what happens. Even though I chose everything, notice just the numbers get the accounting format applied to them. Because there was a word in there, it does adjust that word a little bit in its indenting. See, I Control Z that. See how total moved a little bit. If you don't want the total word to have a slight change in its alignment, only select the numbers to apply the counting format to. So even though it's a word, it does change a little bit if you apply a counting style to the cell with a word in. Let me show you that. I'll zoom in on that. If I have a word but I apply a counting format, see how the word slightly changed its alignment. Sometimes you won't want that, especially if these other ones are not aligned that way. It's always nice to align things up together. Now let's do the same thing over here. We're going to do the first row of numbers, the rent numbers, and all the way out to total. Apply the accounting style. The rest of them, click and drag through to the last expense row and apply comma format. Now you can always switch between comma and accounting if you want to try different formats. But we'll leave it in comma format. See how now the decimals are lining up nicely. And this last total row, click and drag through and apply accounting format to that. And even though I think it's kind of ugly, we would also like to apply counting format to those numbers. Now if I know I just want accounting format applied to everything, I could do a Control A and click the comma format or accounting format. It would put all my numbers in accounting format or comma format, everything on my page. If you know you want everything to be accounting format. That's a handy thing to do if I'm doing the last minute, got my numbers, make everything line up with decimals. I could just do Control A, make everything comma format. But we've selectively applied different formats. So here it's not looking too bad. I think we can still pretty it up some, but let's zoom in on this, just see what we have. We've got a nice title, a line centered across our table. These aren't that easy to read, but that's what they've asked us to do. We do still have some alignment problems. See how September isn't quite aligned, November isn't quite aligned. Here's an easy way to fix all your column alignment. Just do Control A to select everything, and just double click on any border of any column and it will auto fit all my columns. Because I had everything selected, Control A, double clicking on any border will auto fit all the columns because all columns are selected in my spreadsheet. A nice way to auto fit your columns. One thing also, if you want all your columns to be the same width, with a Control A and adjusting any column, all your columns will become that width. Control Z that to get back to my original. So see if I have some columns, say I have one column, say this column is off, this column is off, and this column is off. Rather than fix them all at once, or rather than fix them one at a time, I can do Control A, double click on any column border, and it auto fits everything nicely. So nothing is being overlapped in any column, and nothing got too wide. If something's too wide, I can also do a double click, and it auto adjusts everything to fit properly. It's a nice thing to do if you as you adjust your zoom, things will not fit. Isn't that crazy? As you zoom in and out, you have to re-auto fit if you want things to show up in a new zoom level. You'd think that once I'm zoomed in at a certain level that I wouldn't get the pound signs, but it depends on your zoom level. Your pound signs will come and go. One little quirk about Excel. Okay, so there's my worksheet. Pretty well formatted. We've got a few things we're going to pretty up yet. We've auto-fit our columns. We can give a box a name. They show us how we can name a cell. If I click on cell A3, I see that A3 here. If I see A3, I see his name is A3. We can actually give him a name if we wanted to, and give him a name lowercase. They give it a name lowercase A3. I could give him a name called income title. You can name your cells I don't find it particularly useful, but sometimes you may like to be able to name a cell, like this is my important number, N17. I could call that grand total. You can give a name up here. By default, it gives it the name. The default name is the column followed by the row that it's in. But you will come across some other people's spreadsheets. They'll have names of cells, and you wonder where is that cell? And sometimes giving it a name leaves a person confused because they are used to seeing N17 and knowing there's my cell. Now let's do a couple more things here to make it look better, even better yet. Before we leave here and make a pie chart, that's our last thing we're going to do. Let's give our row headers a little bolded text. So let's select through that, Control select, Control drag and click, so that is selected and that, even though they're not connected. And let's go ahead and make those bold. Let's make our row headings bold. I think that makes our chart look a little more professional. And let's make that one bold too. Now it's time to add a pie chart. Before I add my pie chart, I'm going to save it, Control S. Now we're getting ready to add a pie chart. And what we want to graph is our various expenses, our total expenses, which are right here. The total for the year of each of those expenses is in this column of numbers right here. Our titles for each of those slices of pie will be here. Now, in order for me to make a pie chart, I want the names of each slice of the pie and the numbers representing that slice of the pie to be listed in my pie chart. So I have these selected by clicking and dragging through. Then I go all the way to the right and Control key select. So now I have on the left side selected my titles of each row. Notice I am not going to put the total as a slice of my pie. Over here on the right, I have also selected the numbers to go with that slice of the pie. And just looking at the numbers, I can see that my rent is going to be the largest slice of the pie. But let's now create that pie chart now that the names of my columns are selected and Control selected. Then, I accidentally hit Shift. Let's try that again. Select the names and Control select the numbers. Now it's time to do the insert. I can try recommended charts. It already has a recommended pie chart. If I knew what kind of chart I want, I could just say insert pie chart. Pie chart, there's a chart title, an example of what it's going to look like. And let's click OK to see what I get for a pie chart. Here's my pie chart sitting right there on top of my table. We could move it, or we could move it to a separate worksheet. Let's move it to a separate worksheet. How am I going to do that? Well, I can do a move chart here and choose to move it to a new worksheet. So I did that. I have the pie chart selected, and I go to Move Chart. I think a right click will also work. Let's see, right click. Yeah, I can do right click move chart to. And I can choose to move that to a new worksheet. I could always grab it and just drag it below my table too, but we want to put it on a new sheet, and let's call this sheet monthly expenses chart. And when I click OK, it will create a new worksheet with only that pie chart in it. Let's watch what happens. I click OK, new sheet, and now it's on a separate worksheet. I see a tab down here. This is still my original table. Here is my new pie chart. And now that I have the new pie chart, let's put it in a better format here. This is a horrible key. I can't hardly even read that legend. Let's choose a different style here that has a better legend. Let's just hover over each style. That one, not very good legend. That's getting a little better. At least I see the percentages. There is no titles whatsoever and a invisible legend. That one's showing me there. That one's showing me the names of things. That's the best one so far. That one, ooh, it's not very good colors, but it does show me the names, the barely readable titles, numbers, and just a legend. I like this one the best so far. So I'm going to choose style 9. Yes. The pie chart again, or the move it. And just right click on your chart. Right click. And then move chart. And then that top check mark. Click the little radio button there. And then put the name right there. So type in the name. Monthly expense pie chart. And then it'll create a worksheet. Okay. So now I've got a pie chart of those numbers. I don't see the percentages. I don't think it's that important to see the percentages, but it's not very readable. If I click on the title of one of the slices, notice how all the titles get selected. Well, now that I have them all selected, I can now change the font size for those slices of the pie. Let's increase that by just clicking that. Bump up the size until it's a little more readable. I'm going to make, that's a little too big. Let's reduce the size just a bit. So there I can adjust the size of the titles for each slice of pie. I click on the title, and let's give it a title of monthly expenses. Now this isn't a placeholder. I have to actually replace that text by triple clicking and then retyping the title monthly expenses. And if I want to increase that font size, I can, let's try the Control Shift greater than. No, Control Shift greater than doesn't work. I can click here. Oh, I have to select all of it. There we go. And now increase the font size. Oh, this here, Control Shift greater than does work. So I can adjust my font size for the title. And I think I can I adjust the position of the title? Let's click on that edge of it. Let's see, click once. Let's see if it'll let me adjust the position of the title. No, I don't think it's letting me. No, it doesn't let me adjust the position, but I can adjust the font size of my title. So while we're here playing with charts, remember what these things here can do. Let's play with what these little menu things are. This lets me adjust some, what things are visible on my pie chart. Let's go to data labels. I can choose where the data labels go. Inside, outside. I think outside and is the best. I could do a call out. That's not, actually that has the name and the percentage. I kind of like outside end. Let's see, if I go to more options, I have this thing showing up. I can show the name and the value, or the name and the percentage in the title. I think right now, since a pie chart is just giving me a visual comparison of the sizes, I don't think I need to see the actual number. But if you actually want to see the percentage, you could pop that up and then adjust your font size so they're not overlapping. But I think just showing the name giving you a general idea that rent is the biggest part of our pie. Utilities are the next thing. Well, advertising is the next thing, then utilities. Just a visual view of what our largest expenses are. So remember how I can do that. Select any title. They all get selected. I can then adjust the font size. If I want to emphasize a particular piece of the pie, watch what I can do. I can select the pie slice. See how they all have sizing handles. If I select a slice of pie again by clicking the second time, now that particular piece of the pie is selected. I can drag that pie away from the rest of it to kind of emphasize that slice of the pie in my chart. So let me show you that again. It's a little strange. I have to click once and then click again on the slice of pie that I want to move, and then I can explode that out. Control Z to get back to normal. So multiple clicks make a difference with pie charts. Click once, I have the whole pie selected. I can move it around, or I guess I can't do much except have things selected and adjust. Now if I click again, I can explode that entire chart. Not sure what visual use that is. But typically you click once and then click again to choose a particular piece of the pie to emphasize. Like, hey, we got to deal with our printing in our little presentation. So pie charts and all charts, depending on how many times you click and where you click, you can have different effects on it. Selecting it and then selecting a particular slice of the pie. And you can apply the different styles here or go to the chart design and choose styles from up there. So click once. The filter I don't find particularly useful. You can actually edit your data that you're plotting. The chart styles, that can come in handy, but you also have that up here on the chart design. This thing is probably the handiest, where you can decide how things are viewing, whether or not I want to see a legend, which I think the legends in Excel are pretty useless. Tiny little dots, you can hardly tell what color they are. And I don't think you can adjust the dot size. But if you want to see the legend, you can show it up or choose options for the legend where the legend shows. Show the legend or not. Let me, just for fun, I'm going to see if I can enlarge the size of my legend. Yeah, I guess I can enlarge it to make it a little more visible. I cannot change the size of the little box though. That does make it a little more useful. I think having the title next to the slice of pie is the most useful. So I'm going to turn off my legend so my label is right next to each slice of pie. So now you know how to make a pie chart. Just because this is the first time we did do it, I'm going to do it one more time as a separate new pie chart just to practice. Have my worksheet. The numbers I want to graph on my pie chart are these numbers. The titles that go with those rows are control, select those, that will become the titles. Excuse me. One thing that I've seen, if you accidentally choose the wrong cells for your titles, like I missed one, watch what happens when you try to create a pie chart. It'll go wacko. Actually, that one didn't do too bad. But notice how I don't have titles. I just have numbers. If I don't use the same number of cells selected over here, if they don't match the same numbers over here, because I missed a row over here, look what I get for a pie chart. It'll go wacky. So if you ever see that not behaving right, make sure you have the exact same number of rows selected for your cell pie slice sizes as you do for the pie slice labels. Now when I do the pie chart, I like the 3D pie, that's pretty cool. Then I get a proper pie chart. Now with a 3D pie, it looks just a little nicer. I'm going to go ahead and do a right click, move that chart. I'm going to move it to a chart. I'll call it monthly expenses 3D pie chart. And that one looks a little cooler. And I can do the same things. I can choose my style of that 3D pie chart. I'm going to look for one that has the labels. Ooh, that one's pretty cool. I like that one. I can click a title, Control Shift greater than, increase that font size. Maybe go over here and turn off the percentages in my data labels. Let's see, more options. I can turn off showing the percentage. And I have a similar chart this time, but 3D. And I can Control A, select that, and enlarge my title. So I did, now just for practice, I made a 3D pie chart as well as a 2D pie chart. Let's see, can I change my 2D pie chart into a 3D style? Format? Maybe not. I thought I could go from 2D to 3D style in here, but it doesn't let me. Once I choose a 2D style pie chart, unless I mess with it myself in the format of it and the shape effects, I'm not sure I can make it 3D. Let's see what if I could. Nope. So at the start I decided to do a 3D pie chart. I think that looks a little more interesting. So now I've demonstrated how to create a pie chart from selected numbers. I'm going to give this sheet a new name. It was sheet 1. If I double click on its title, I can give him projected monthly expense. Projected monthly expenses. If I want to have that be my first chart or my first sheet in my spreadsheet, I can click on that tab and just drag it to the left, and it becomes my first worksheet. The leftmost worksheet, and I can close the options, the leftmost worksheet becomes the one that is seen when you first open the file. So whatever you have on the left is going to be what they see first when they open your file. So there's my expenses, there's a 3D expenses. I'm going to make that the second one. And now I have a lovely looking chart. My accountants will love to see the numbers all nicely lined up. I know what currency I have. I see the dollars and pennies. And let's see what else they would like to do. We've done our pie chart. Nicely formatted numbers. Moved it to a separate page. Change my sheet tabs. Oh, something they do in the book is they give a color to the tabs. It's nice to know how to do that, even though it's not terribly exciting. I can right click on a tab and choose my tab color. So I'm going to choose just random colors here for my tabs. I'll make that one be a orangey. Right click that one, tab color, make that be a bluish. Right click on that one, make that be a yellowish. And see how when you have it selected, it has just a slight shade of that color. If it's not selected, it takes a solid color. So knowing how to color your tabs makes your life in Excel a little more exciting. And how I did that, right click on a tab, tab color. Right click is your friend. Now there's lots of other things you can mess with here. View code, I haven't even played with that. Or protect the sheet, we'll talk about that. And I've done a little work now, so I'm going to do another Control S. And now let's see, are we ready to finalize this? Let's see, anything else we want to do? We've moved a sheet to a new tab. We've changed our sheet titles. Remember, if you ever want to change a tab title, just double click on it and you can adjust. Oh, no, oops, I accidentally clicked the plus, delete. If you want to change the title, just click on the title, or you could right click rename. I think you can also rename, but just click once and then click again. Then you can edit it right there in line. Can't click too fast, I guess. There we go. Yeah, double click. I guess what happens is I clicked it and then I accidentally clicked the plus because it moved over and I was sitting on top of the plus. And it looks like the last thing they do, they show you how you can print it if you wanted. I'll just show you a handy thing to know. I'm going to turn off the custom options here. It's a handy thing to know. We can always do a print of our file, send it to a printer, send it to a PDF. Sometimes, though, it's handy just to print part of your spreadsheet, especially if you have a huge spreadsheet. Say if I want to print this, I could select a set of cells and do Control P or File Print, Control P, and I can choose whether I'm going to print the active sheets or only print the selected cells, and that'll show you what it'll print. It'll only print the cells selected. Sometimes it's handy just to print particular cells that I have selected. I'm going to cancel that by doing back arrow. If I only want to print this part of the chart, Control P, and again it remembers print only the selection. If I want everything printed, active sheets, I think it'll print each sheet and where's my pie chart? I can choose what pages to print. Only print the active sheets. Entire workbook, there we go. Entire workbook, that will give me my pie charts in the printout. So I can print entire workbook, only the sheet that I currently have active, or only things I have selected. Say I want to print the entire workbook, I can choose to send it to a PDF. I can do print to PDF, ready to send to someone as a PDF. They may not have Excel, so I'm going to send it to them as a PDF. So print to PDF is a very handy thing to know. Nice thing about PDF is they can't do all the retotaling for you. They can only see what you generated. So rather than giving them the Excel spreadsheet that they could mess with, send them the PDF of the entire workbook or of just the particular section you want them to see. Another thing in the print, sometimes you don't want multiple pages like ugliness like this. You can tell it to fit to my sheet, or fit to paper. You can give it margins. You can give it landscape. And you can tell it where's the fitting. There you go. You can have it fit sheet to one page. So you don't have a spreadsheet going across multiple pages. So landscape would probably be better for worksheets. Here I can make sure it fits on one sheet and doesn't get ugly spread across multiple sheets. That can look pretty ugly on a printout, half printed tables. So whenever I'm doing a table, I will do a print. I usually set it to print fit to the sheet. It gets a little small sometimes, but at least it's not spreading across multiple pages. And you can adjust your margins as well, so it fits nicely, as large as possible on a sheet of paper. Okay, with all of that, you don't have to do any printing of it. Save your Excel spreadsheet. With all of this, you are done with Excel Project 1. Should have something that looks like this. You don't have to have the 3D pie chart. It's kind of fun to be able to do that, but at least have one of those pie charts, the 2D, and your numbers. Should look something like that. Save that, upload it to Schoology, and we're done with Project 1.